Hello guys, welcome to Study IQ. I'm Safir, and in this session, we're going to talk about planning. So this is our third session on planning, and we are going to end this module with this particular session. So this is our last session in planning. So guys, we have done 3 sessions, and trust me, these 3 sessions are enough for you to cover this module. There is no need to read any textbooks, no need to attend any further classes. This is complete in itself, trust me. And we have discussed up till 7th plan, right? So I have told you, like, there was first plan from 51 to 56, and that years I'm not going to repeat it. And then second, and then third plan, and once the 3 plans, the first 3 plan, and then there was 3-year gap, right? And this was plan holiday, annual plan, due to food shortage, acute shortage of food. That was famine was the reason actually, and we went for green revolution to ensure food security and all. So war was a minor reason, but the actual reason was famine. We discussed this in detail. And then comes the 4th plan, and then the 5th plan, and then 5th plan is supposed to be from 74 to 79. 78, Janata Party came to power, and they terminated the 5-year plan, and then they went for rolling plan. So the next 2 year you will see that. And then in 80, so then here the gap will be, it is not gap, it is rolling plan. So here it is plan holiday, annual plan. So here it will be rolling plan. And then 6th will be coming from 80 to 85. When the Congress come back to power, they resume the planning. So then the 6th plan we discussed, and then the 7th plan we discussed. And during this time, the macroeconomic situation is getting deteriorated. There is BOP crisis, and then again 2-year gap. So we are going to solve that particular issue there. And this 2-year gap is again annual plan. So guys, I repeat, 3-year gap here, annual plan, 2-year gap here, annual plan. Annual plans are addressing a particular issue. Here the issue was related to food because of famine. Here the issue was related to forex, and we had a BOP crisis. And this is what we have done so far. So if you look for the reason why BOP crisis was there, we have discussed the domestic factors as well as the external factors. And if you look into the domestic factors, inflation, very important. High revenue deficit, fiscal deficit is very important, right? Apart from that, political instability, 89 to 91, that 2 year in itself, you will see three government changes, right? So these are the domestic factors. And if you look into the external factors, Gulf War, and that definitely affected the oil prices. So oil prices is going high, and then that is going to definitely affect us in terms of forex as well. We need to pay more, right? At the same time, the foreign remittances have come down. Gulf is very important for us in terms of oil and in terms of remittances. So remittances have come down. So incoming have reduced and outgoing is getting more. So that was a huge burden. Secondly, the disintegration of Soviet Union. So it disintegrated to 16 countries. So we had a counter trade agreement, right? Like a barter system. So we can import, we just need to counter export rather than paying forex. So we were not losing forex, and around 25% of our share, import was from the 16 country. But now due to disintegration, we have to pay everything in terms of dollar. So we have to pay forex. So these are some of the most important reasons. And then we have negotiated with IMF and World Bank, and we have signed the Washington Consensus, and that is what the first generation reform. So in this today's session, I'll also talk about the second generation reform that is actually complementary to first generation reform and not contradictory. Don't take it in that sense. I'll explain it further. Guys, I'll just tell you what are the reforms. But remember, guys, this is a session on planning, and I've committed to complete this in 3 sessions, and I'm doing that. But if you see this, the first generation reform, when I talk about, like, one of the issue was related to inflation. Second issue was related to budget, right? Fiscal deficit and revenue deficit. So you have to go for FRBM. And what is FRBM and all, I'll be discussing in the chapter on budget, because that in itself is a separate session. I cannot do that. Then related to tax, we will be discussing in the chapter on tax, like the Chelaya committee, Kelkar committee recommendations, and all those things we have to. Now, let me tell you one thing, guys. Whatever points I've discussed, right? If it is not there in your notes, if it is not covered by your teachers, it has to be there in your notes. These are very important. Okay, so banking sector reforms, Narasimham 1, Narasimham 2, and then that I'll be discussing in chapter on banking. Then foreign trade related policy changes, so that we will discuss under the chapter on foreign trade. Then foreign investment related changes, FIA changes and FDI changes, the ceiling up introduced and all, or increased and all those things, we will have to cover it over there. So all these we will see, and again new industrial policy, competition act, okay, MRTP, all those things will be, I'll just name it here because that's the only thing that I can do as part of the reform. But all these need to be there in your notes, either from our classes, anyway we will be doing it in future. In fact, I've done already in the other Study IQ channel, the Hindi version, so you can watch it over there as well. Otherwise, I can just name it now and you can take it like that, and you need to cover it. It should be there in your note, perfect, completely. These are very important area, very, very important reforms when it comes to economy. And you can expect mains question as well as prelims question. Okay, so let me talk about what is the actual name of the reform is the first generation reform or Rao Manmohan model, all those things we call it, but the technical name is macroeconomic stabilization, because the problem is macroeconomic issues was there. So firstly, we have to go for macroeconomic stabilization and then structural adjustment program. So this is a technical name. So we will have to see what are the macroeconomic stabilization measures, that is the immediate measures, and this is something which you have to take it for long term. Structural adjustment program, the structural changes that you need to do for Indian economy. That is what reforms. Like firstly, you will be opening up your economy, LPG, right? And then licensing policies have to be changed. This permit quota, this quota Raj permit, all those things has to be changed. Banking sector reforms, tax reforms, foreign trade related reforms, all those things, foreign investment related reforms, all these things need to be coming here. So guys, these reforms we have to discuss in different other chapters. Even when I discuss the second generation reform, I talk about more Competition Act, MRTP, FRBM, FE, FEMA, all these, I'll just name it because I can only do that. Okay. I hope you can understand, because we are in the chapter on planning. This is not the place where I'm supposed to discuss, but I can indicate. It's like, we have discussed indicative planning and imperative planning, right? So I can indicate, I can facilitate that you need to go through this, and I can help you when it comes to that particular chapter as well. So otherwise, inflation need to be adjusted. For that, you should not go for deficit financing. Completely stop deficit financing, and then devaluation of currency, reduce fiscal deficit and revenue deficit. And for that, FRBA may have been passed, and all those things is what we need to see. Now, that's it. Now we can go for 8th plan. So first 3 plan, 3-year gap, 2 plan, 2 gap, then 2 plan, 2 gap, now 5 plans continuously. Okay, easy to remember. So let's go with the 8th plan, 92 to 97. So what is the focus? Focus was growth with human face. Growth with human face. Guys, even now also post-liberalization, the trickle down is actually expected. But it was a failure. In fact, here also it is going to be a failure. Before also it was a failure. Here it is failure because when you open up the economy, you're expecting a lot of investments will come, and that will provide employment opportunity, that will reduce poverty, and that will bring down inequality, etc. But if you see, the investments have come, but these are not labor intensive. These are all capital intensive. So in fact, instead of, contrary to your expectation that employment opportunities will be created, it cut down the employment opportunities actually. It replaced things with computers and all. So in fact, inequality have increased, poverty have increased post-liberalization. And that's the reason why later you will see government intervention is getting higher. Earlier government intervention was higher, right? We are actually a mixed economy, but there is a tilt towards socialism till 91. Post 91, mixed economy, tilt towards capitalism. But we have realized that no, the trickle down is actually not working out. But again, guys, as I've told you before, trickle down need time. You have to give time. You cannot expect that in 5 years or 10 years or another 20 years. It may take around 25, 30, 40, 50 years also. If you see the developed countries, they've taken time for the trickle down to happen, and too much of population. That is also a big trouble, right? So what happened then? Post 2005 onwards, you will see government is interfering more, and you will see Food Security Act, and then the Forest Act, and MGA and REGA. So it has been realized that government intervention is required. Government cannot sit silently. Okay, and you cannot expect the market will take care of everything. Market will take care of everything only if you have money. If you don't have money, there is no demand, and no one is going to do anything for you, right? So growth with human interface. And now from here onwards, there is a change from imperative planning to indicative planning. This is again very important. 8th plan onwards, imperative planning means regulated by government, rigidly regulated by government. Indicative means government act as a facilitator. So that is what I've told you before. There was a tilt towards socialism. That is what imperative, everything, economic activities and everything is rigidly regulated by government. But now government act as a facilitator. Okay, so that means there is a shift towards capitalism, expecting the market to take care of things. So imperative to indicative, you can take down in your notes, but I'll not be writing. And then this SAP, Structural Adjustment Program, was adopted. And in the coming plans, it will be continued also. Okay, so and then you will see delicensing, FDI ceiling is increasing, and all those things you will be seeing over here. And then the growth achieved was around 6.8%. So this is what you need to remember. Now let's go with the 9th plan. So that is from 97 to 2002. Okay, so the focus here, again, growth with equity. Growth with equity and social justice. So the structural adjustment program, which was adopted in the previous plan, actually continued. It has to be continued. And then in 99, NDA government came to power, and they have started second generation reform. Guys, these are not contradictory. It's not that government changed, right? So that means here these people are going for a different type of reform. No, these are complementary rather than contradictory. You will see these are actually going to intensify the process of LPG. So this is actually going to complement or help whatever has been done before. Okay, so supplementary or complementary, whatever language you want to use, you can use that. Now, first, in the second generation itself, the first idea is to fully implement the first generation reform. Now, to fully implement means like, see, you have new industrial policy, 1991. So the policy have changed. Now it is getting better, but the laws are still remain the same. So you need to change the laws as well. Then only things will change. Actually, everything will take, in a faster way. So like MRTP, monopoly restriction, trade practices, like this is actually against the larger companies. So it has been, relaxed. Okay, so and then instead Competition Act was passed. Guys, Competition Act is very important, 2002. So that is something which I will be, MRTP also I'll discuss in the chapter on industry. And then after that, I'll also talk about Competition Act as well. So here I just mentioned about this. This is a part of second generation reform, something which we need to discuss in some other module. Okay, so here second generation reform is actually complementary. In fact, it is going to facilitate the actual reform. Okay, so the first one that you can write, and then tax reforms like Kelkar committee, just take it down, these names. You need to refer it yourself, or we will be doing it in fact, I've done it also in the other channel. You can check it over there, StudyIQ itself. So I've done it in English only, although the channel is Hindi. So then Kelkar committee, okay, expenditure reform commission, FRBMA 2003, all those FRBMA, Kelkar committee. They have asked mains question also before, right? Last year prelims question was also there related to this. Then banking sector reform, right? So banking sector reform already there, but why only banks? Like then other sectors also need to be, other financial institutions and sectors also need to be given, like some reforms should be there, like then IRDA, right? So in IRDA was passed 99. And then what else? Yeah, universal banks like ICICI, like it will act as normal bank as well as developmental banks, right? And then trade related policies like special economic zones, okay? And then FEMA 99. Okay, so there are changes in trade and investment policy. So that is why I've told you this is basically to complement, because already some policies have changed, but the laws are still remain the same, like MRTP, very much biased against the bigger companies. So now it is going to be relaxed and Competition Act is better. Okay, now there are some more reforms which also coming in this, like agricultural reforms. Okay, so guys, this will be discussed in the chapter on agriculture, like National Agriculture Policy 2000 was adopted. And then there is a provision in WTO. When I discuss about international organization, I'll talk about WTO. There I'll talk about SSO, Special Safeguard Mechanism, SSM, sorry, to protect the farmers. Okay, so complementary to this, actually, we have passed Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Right Act 2001. This also will be discussed in the chapter on agriculture as well as in the chapter on international organization, and also to promote, this is basically to promote research and development. Then insurance. When it comes to agriculture, insurance is very important. So farm income insurance scheme, there are different insurance schemes, which is very important. We will be discussing that. So farm income insurance scheme 2003, Kisan credit card, okay, rural electrification, and then animal husbandry promoted. Reforms in APMC, very important. So guys, all these reforms are in the agriculture area. So I can only name these. I hope you can understand my situation. To name itself, it will take around 3-4 minutes, right? So each of these are in itself, APMC in itself is a session. I've done it already. Like insurance is another session, right? So National Agricultural Policy is another session, like that. And then there are some state level reform, like a Finance Commission debt relief scheme. Now that debt relief scheme means it was suggested by Finance Commission, like if you pass the fiscal responsibility law, then there will be debt relief. And then reduce the revenue expenditure. This is something, this is a thumb rule always. You have to reduce your revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure is the day-to-day administrative expenditure that you need to reduce. And you can actually increase the developmental expenditure. Developmental expenditure means it can be capital expenditure also. Like if you are going for infrastructure, then it is okay. Okay. Then there are certain legislative reforms, and then capital market reforms. A lot of issues were there during that time related to capital market from Harshad Mehta onwards. Okay. And then exit policy to be implemented. And the actual growth achieved during this time was around 5.4%. So I just want to tell you that first generation reform, after that, now NDA came to power, 99, then onwards, second generation reform. First generation reform, the policies have changed, like new industrial policy have come. Till then, there was different policy. Now, but related to that, laws need to be changed so that it is going to work better. That is why I've told you second generation reform is actually going to facilitate, or this is going to supplement or complement the first generation reform. This is not contradictory. Okay, mutually supportive. So that now the laws are also changed. So that is going to work out well. You can simply talk about women empowerment, but that in itself is not going to do anything. The laws need to be changed, like Domestic Violence Act, Anti-Sati Resolution, Widow Remarriage Act, etc. need to be there, right? So that is what all about. Now, guys, this is very significant here because post-reform era, this is the least growth. That is why this is important. Now, overall planning, what is the least growth? Third plan, 2.8. Okay, we have discussed that already. So third plan is important for that, and post-reform era, this is the least growth. Now let's go with the 10th plan. We are almost finished, guys. Let's go faster. 2002 to 2007. Focus is actually the same as that one we have discussed. So there is no point in repeating the focus. We discussed it already, growth with equity and social justice. So the focus is actually the same. Now, growth with equity and social justice. That's the focus. And the growth achieved was 7.6, which is actually a very good growth. Okay. But the problem is growth, you can see it is high, especially when you compare it with the previous year. But it's like, it's not a broad-based growth. It's a narrow-based growth. The reason is, if you see, I don't remember exact figure now. Agriculture contribution was very less. Let me check it, guys. Yeah, agriculture contribution was very less. It was around 2.4 only. So we were targeting around 4%. Okay, this is the normal target in agriculture. So the target was around 4%, but you were able to achieve 2.4. So what do you mean by narrow based? Not all sectors are contributing. So agriculture is not doing good. Okay, not doing good. So though growth is there, but agriculture is not contributing, right? So agriculture is not contributing. That's not a good sign, in fact. So you'll see in the next plan for that also some measures will be taken to make it broad based. And during this time, 2002 to 7, this is where Competition Act is coming, FRBM is coming, and then Kelkar recommendation. So Competition Act related to chapter on industries, MRTP will be replaced with Competition Act, and then FRBM that will come in the chapter on budget. I'll discuss that. And then Kelkar recommendations comes in the chapter on taxation. We will do that. 3 very, very important topics, guys. If you have done with economy, and if you're just watching this video for a revision, and if you have not done this, then you have to revisit your preparation strategy. Okay. So then let's go with the next one, 11th. So as I've told you, you will give focus for broad-based growth, 2007 to 2012. So focus was faster, broad-based, and inclusive growth. So what do you mean by broad-based here? As I've told you in the previous, growth was there, but agriculture contribution was less, even lesser than the target. So here you need the contribution of agriculture. That means when I say broad-based, all sectors. Okay, and you are targeting around faster, you are targeting around 9% growth. So it should be faster, broad-based, and inclusive growth means what? Guys, inclusive growth means all should participate. That's what inclusive growth. So participation of all, contribution of all. There should be growth, there should be development. So growth is quantitative, development is qualitative. So when it comes to inclusive, it should be growth on one side, but with the contribution of all. Okay, so growth can be there even without the contribution of all also, but that's not the case. Everybody should contribute and then grow. That is what inclusive growth. That means you have to go for a lot of good things in social sector. So during this time, 2007-12, that's where you will see a lot of initiatives in the social sector, MGNREGA, Food Security Act, and then Forest Act, and all those things are going to come during this time. Okay, especially this time. Yeah. So MGNREGA extended to all areas, and then a lot of changes, a lot of reforms in education and health sector you will see, because expectation is all should contribute, right? So social sector reforms need to be there. Infrastructure development should be given priority through public-private partnership. So infrastructure, again, very important. Achievement was, so the target, this is a target, achievement was 7.8%. Guys, now remember, it's very, very high, very, very good achievement, because this was the time where you were facing the financial crisis. Okay, so the global financial crisis, the great, recession. Okay, 1929-30, that time, great recession, depression. This is great recession. Okay, so here everywhere growth is like 1% or negative growth, but now we were able to get 7.8, close to 8. Means it's almost like, if it is normal situation, it would have been like something like 11, 12, something like that. That means we are actually above the target if you qualitatively compare. Okay, I hope you understood my point. So it's actually very high, and global financial crisis was there during this time. So, and the most importance of this is it actually created awareness on inclusive growth. Next is the last one, 12th plan. So 2012 to 17, and during this time planning was ending. Planning is not ending. 5-year plans are over. Focus was faster, sustainable, and inclusive. So inclusive growth same, faster it is same, like focusing on growth of 9. Again the same, 9% was the focus, but later it was revised to 8%. But faster means you are looking for more growth. Sustainable means you are looking for environment also, by protecting the environment. So guys, all these are very important: sustainable, inclusive, all those. Okay, sustainable growth, sustainable development. Okay, protecting the environment. So focus on environment. A lot of goals were set related to environment. Like, you were targeting around 88,000 megawatt energy to be created. Out of that, 1/3 should come from renewable. Around 30,000 megawatt must be renewable energy. And then forest creation, okay, etc. So that's it, guys. The growth achieved was around approximately 6 point something. This is not that important, this number. So that's it. We have done with all the plans. Guys, what I want to tell you is, like, we have done, this is what you need to remember. First, second, third plan, 3-year gap, plan holiday. Food was the issue. We went for annual plan, green revolution and all, we solved it. Then 4, 5, then 2-year gap, that is due to Janata Party came to power, rolling plan. So this is plan holiday, this is rolling plan. And then 6, 7, then comes BOP crisis, 2-year plan holiday. So this is annual plan, this is annual plan because of specific issue. Here it is rolling plan. And then come 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Very, very easy to remember. Okay. This BOP crisis is very important. The factors are important. The reform is important. First generation reform. They will not ask you in the chapter on planning, but each of these reforms are important in itself, and they will ask you which is related to that specific chapter. And as I've told you, tax related reforms I'll discuss in that chapter. Agriculture related reform, I'll do that over there. APMC or agriculture policy or insurance policy, whatever it is, right? Tax related reforms like Kelkar committee, Chalaya committee, everything I'll discuss. Budget, that means FRBMA, I'll discuss there in the chapter on budget. Industry, I'll discuss MRTP, Competition Act, and new industrial policy. All industrial policies, everything will cover. Foreign trade policy we'll discuss in the chapter on foreign trade. Foreign investment policy, we'll do that over there. So don't worry about all these. But if you don't have time, you have to cover it by yourself. That's it, guys. That's it from my side. I'll stop here. I hope you enjoy the session. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Comment below if you have any doubts. Subscribe to the channel also. See you guys.